Hi, I'm Dr. Erica with Rosie Research, and I am really excited to share with you some of the labs that we have been creating. And the labs that we make are more in-depth than the free mini makers you can find online, but they are a great resource to help teach your kids and engage your kids in science and the scientific concepts that they need to be learning in school. Now, I think science is really important to grow a love of science because science is in the world all around us, and we are living in a science-based world with technology everywhere. So if we can give our kids the tools when they're young, they're going to do so much better as they grow. And I have a huge love of science. I have a PhD in physics, and I also have 2 little girls, and those little girls are just my life. And I want them to love science as much as I love science. And that's sometimes really hard when I couldn't find the materials that I felt really lit a fire in them. And so I decided to design my own materials. And I pour tons of hours into making each of these labs. And I think really hard about what goes in them and the design of them. And then I test them. I test them at community programs that we run for anybody in our community can come to. I test them in after-school science classes at multiple schools. I test them inside schools. I test it on field trips. And then once it's gone through a ton of revisions, I give them to my husband, who is my dad tester. He is an English and history person. He is not the science person of meticulous, in-depth science knowledge. He loves reading about science and knowing about science, but he doesn't know exactly how circuits work. So he's my ultimate tester, and he is the one who will tell me, I don't know circuits. What is this? And I'll go back to the drawing board and recreate that lab. And at the end, we get this nice polished lab that is a nice activity for you guys, but then I even have more activities and worksheets to really hammer home all of the things that the kids are learning during it. So I want to take you through a journey of some of the labs that we've created and the topics we've looked at. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through one of our other labs in depth so you get a good idea of what's in the labs. So what are some labs that we've created? Well, we have taken a rover and imaged Mars and learned how computers do imaging and talk to each other in binary coding. We have fixed a robot's broken eye with Play-Doh circuits and learned how LEDs light up and how they don't light up, and conductors and insulators. We have solved a mummy mystery and decided whether a mummy was real or not by creating our own mass spectrometer at home to carbon date our own mummy. That was a lot of fun. We have saved a whole boat of people from pirates as we dug for pirates' treasure and figured out how to engineer ships to bring that treasure home. We have gone and traveled through time as we learned about particle physics and how we can learn about things we can't see. We have even saved the world from the asteroid of doom as we've learned optics and played with lasers and lights and lenses. So we have all of these things that we have done in all of these topics. You might say, well, what's in a lab? So this is another one of our labs called Mission to Mars, where we learned about how to make rockets and the things to think about rockets. We learned how to make rovers and how to drive rovers. So there's programming in this one. And all of our labs start off with something to grab our kids' attention. And that is either a comic strip or a story. So it sort of depends on the mood we're feeling when we make it, but this one has a little comic strip to get you engaged and to get you thinking about what you're going to make in that lab. And then this one, we talk about how do you make rocket fuel. And you're going to make film canister rockets in here. And it has little experiments and places that you can write your notes for those experiments about how does this work? Why, if you make a film canister rocket and mix baking soda and vinegar, why does it blow up? If I mix water and salt, nothing happens. So why do these 2 other things change? We can look at a little mini experiment about hot water versus cold water. And these are great openings to ask your kids questions. What do you think would happen if we used hot water in this rocket instead of cold water? Would it blast as high? Would it blast faster? I don't know. Let's try. So it really opens the door for that. And then you sort of look and you take flight, and it's got a place for you to record your findings And we try to do a lot of pictorial instructions because kids can get really disengaged when all you have is black and white text on a page and they have to have you there to read it. This is a lot more fun. Even if you're there reading it with them, they can look at the pictures and see what's happening and see the projects. And in this one, you actually compare different types of rocket fuel. So you can use Alka-Seltzer and water to make rocket fuel, or you can use vinegar and baking soda to make rocket fuel. And you can test how much fuel do you use and how high does it go for each of those types. And then of course we have to make our rocket. And I love this activity so much because in science, you always have a budget. And here we have the same thing. We have a budget. You cannot make any rocket that you want to make. You have to be in budget because taxpayers are paying for your rocket. And so you're given sort of a cap on all of the materials that you can buy, and they're recycled materials, but they have to choose and pick and choose of what's in their budget. And if they want to, they can write a press release. So we're going to bring in some language arts. They can write a press release to the public to tell why is it so important? Why do we need to spend $50 million more on a better rocket cone so that we can get to Mars? What are we going to learn? And can they really use a good argument to get more money? And that's something that scientists, we have to do that all of the time when we write grants. And then we go into learning how engineers build things. So you draw something, you design it first, and then we're going to test it. And we talk about things to think about as you're designing your rocket, and we call it the weight wars of if you have a really heavy rocket, what do you think is going to happen? If you have a really light rocket, what do you think will happen? And we have, again, another mini experiment that you can use with, some toys in a swing to check out. So that's another little mini activity that's in that lab. And after you shoot off your rocket, we also have a whole bunch of ways to keep on learning about science. So this is a list of little extra activities that we have about landing on Mars, encountering aliens, writing things, drawing things, programming. We have a paper programmable rover, which I'll show you. And so that's sort of the first part of the lab. And with that lab comes a parent-teacher guide. So you have, how do you troubleshoot? What sorts of things and problems are you going to have in this? What are the goals and takeaways that you're going to have to try to get, hit home, or questions that you can ask with your kids? We have ways to scale this for somebody who's in preschool or somebody who's in fifth grade. And I love that about these labs because you can do it in your homeschool setting or in your home setting with kids of all ages. And you can just give them different little tweaks to make it really challenging for each individual child. We have an in real life, why this science is important. And I think that's also really great because so often we lose track of what we're doing and why we care about what we're doing. So this helps you as a parent remember and help them learn. And then we also have a sourcing guide. So what things are you going to need to do this project? And if there's anything special that we bought, where did we buy it at? And then we have our add-on activities. So this one is engineering a soft landing. So if we're going to Mars, we're probably going to drop a rover on Mars. So can you save your rover? What will your rover look like when it lands on Mars? Will it survive or not? And you have to engineer a landing, and it's got a place for you to design how you're going to do that, to get your supplies, and then to test it and just keep redoing that process until it works. We have a writing activity about where will you go, and it breaks down the writing activity at a glance. So where, what, how, and who's going to be doing this. Then you can write about your trip. You can do what you will see. So you can have kids use their imagination and art and draw what they're going to see. We have a mystery rocket, so what will you design? Other types of rockets that you can do. We've got a balloon rocket that you can make. What types of aliens do you think you're going to encounter? We've got an engineer ID card so that they can take a picture and put it right here and they can wear it around as a scientist as they're working on these projects. And let's see, we have more learning about writing. We have a big debate of the pen versus the pencil in space and learning about how to research things and make opinion pieces. And we have that in two forms where you can just write the pros and cons for younger kids, or you can write out a whole essay if you're an older kid. And then we've got paper programmable rovers. So we have a mission to Olympus Mons, and can you program your rover around that? And it goes over a series of days where you have to program on paper how to get from place to place. This is all in one lab, and you can imagine how much your kids are going to learn and how deep they can drill down into the science as they're doing these labs. And there's so many activities that they can do, and it just really makes science fun for them. And that's our goal, fun science as they learn real science. And it doesn't have to be hard. It can be fun for you and for them. Thank you so much for coming on this little journey with me, and I really hope you'll check out all of the things we've done on our website and enjoy some of our labs with us. That was so long. Please